Welcome back to Rise and Thrive. I am Che Blackmon, and this is the space we come to every single Wednesday to talk about what it really takes for Black women to lead with power, with purpose, and with authenticity in professional spaces that were not originally designed for us to thrive. Let me start today with a question, and I want you to sit with this one for a second. Think about the last major opportunity you got in your career: the promotion, the stretch assignment, the invitation to the table. Now think about how that opportunity came to you. Was it something you applied for cold, or did somebody in your network create an opening for you? Did someone say your name in a room you were not in? If you had to pause right there, that tells you everything about why we are diving into chapter 3 of the book today. Alone, all alone. Nobody, but nobody can make it out here alone. Maya Angelou wrote those words, and they were not just poetry. That was a strategic declaration, and it is the foundation of everything we are unpacking in today's episode. We are talking about building your strategic network, not the surface level networking where you collect business cards at conferences and never follow up. Not the awkward LinkedIn requests with no context. We are talking about building the kind of intentional, reciprocal, power generating relationships that actually move your career forward. Especially, and I want to emphasize this, especially for Black women who are statistically over-mentored and under-sponsored. So if you are ready to stop networking from a place of obligation and start building from a place of strategy, this episode is for you. Let us get into it. Let me start with what I believe is the most important distinction that professional Black women need to understand when it comes to career networks, and that is the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Now, I say this with the full weight of more than 20 years of HR leadership across manufacturing, automotive, nonprofit, healthcare, quick service, and professional services. I have sat in the rooms where promotions get decided. I have watched whose name gets brought up, and more importantly, whose name does not. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that the gap between mentorship and sponsorship is where many talented Black women find themselves stuck. Here's the reality. A mentor is someone who talks with you. They give you advice. They share their experience. They help you think through challenges, and that is valuable. Please do not misunderstand me. Having someone who has been where you want to go and is willing to share wisdom is a gift. But a sponsor is someone who talks about you, not just to you, about you. A sponsor puts their own professional reputation on the line to advocate for your advancement. They recommend you for the stretch assignment in a meeting you were not invited to. They push back when someone questions your readiness. They connect you to opportunities that you did not even know existed. They do not just advise, they act. And here's where this gets complicated for us. Research has consistently shown that Black women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. We receive plenty of advice. Plenty of people are willing to sit down and tell us what we should do, how we should navigate, how we should adjust ourselves. But the actual advocacy, the putting of capital on the line, that part is lacking. And the reason for this is structural. Sponsorship tends to develop through informal relationships and shared affinity. People sponsor those who remind them of themselves at an earlier stage. And when leadership in most organizations is still disproportionately white and disproportionately male, the pipeline of informal sponsorship flows away from Black women by default. Not always because of malice, but because of the mechanics of how these relationships form. This is why in my high-value leadership trademark framework, I always emphasize that transformation requires both internal development and external opportunity. You can develop every skill in the book, But if no one is creating visibility for your contributions and opening doors to your advancement, you are running a race with hurdles that other people do not have. So, what do sponsors actually do? Let me paint this clearly. A sponsor recommends you for stretch assignments. They advocate for your promotion behind closed doors. They connect you to influential networks. They publicly endorse your capabilities, and they create visibility for your achievements. That is not the same as mentorship. That is career activation. So here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to think about the people in your professional life. Who is mentoring you? And who is actually sponsoring you? If those two lists look the same, or if the sponsor list is empty, that is your first indicator that your network needs strategic attention. Now, let us take this a step further. In the book, I talk about developing a personal board of directors, and this is a concept I want you to sit with because it changes everything about how you approach your career relationships. Think of your career as a corporation where you serve as CEO. Every successful corporation has a board of directors, people who bring diverse perspectives, different expertise, and different kinds of influence. Your career needs the same thing. Here are the 7 roles I outline in Chapter 3, and I want you to honestly assess which ones you have filled and which ones are empty. The sponsor. This is someone with organizational power who actively advocates for your advancement. Not just a cheerleader, someone who is senior enough to actually influence decisions about your career trajectory. The mentor. An experienced guide who provides wisdom and psychological support. Ideally, this is someone who understands the unique challenges you face as a Black woman in professional spaces. The coach. Someone who helps develop specific skills and provides objective feedback. This might be a formal coach or a trusted colleague who is willing to be real with you about your growth areas. The connector. A person with extensive networks who introduces you to opportunities and influential people. They expand your reach beyond your immediate circle. Think of this person as the one who always knows somebody. The truth teller. Someone who provides honest feedback without sugarcoating. This person helps you see blind spots. And let me be honest with you, this role is probably the most uncomfortable and the most important. The peer ally. A colleague at your level who shares information, provides support, and collaborates on mutual advancement. This is the person who sends you the internal job posting before it goes public. The one who gives you the heads up about what is happening in leadership meetings. The external advisor. Someone outside your organization who offers industry perspective and external opportunities. This person helps you see beyond the walls of your current company. Now, here's the exercise I want you to do. Map your current relationships against these 7 roles. Where are the gaps? And I want to be clear, one person can serve multiple roles, and some of these people may not be in your current organization. That is fine. The point is that you are intentional about ensuring each function is covered. Because when you have all 7 of these positions filled, you have a system of support that works together. Your sponsor opens the door. Your mentor helps you prepare to walk through it. Your coach refines your skills. Your connector introduces you to who you need to know. Your truth teller keeps you honest. Your peer ally watches your back. And your external advisor gives you perspective you cannot get from the inside. I want to pause here and bring in some historical context, because when we talk about Black women building strategic networks, this is not a new conversation. Our literary mothers understood this at a level that we need to revisit. Toni Morrison, whose words open Chapter 2 of this book, once said something that I think applies directly to networking. She wrote in her novel Beloved, and I am paraphrasing the spirit of it here, that freeing yourself was one thing, but claiming ownership of that freed self was another. And I think about that in the context of career networks constantly. Toni Morrison herself was a masterclass in strategic network building. Before she became the Nobel Prize-winning novelist we celebrate today, she was an editor at Random House. And in that role, she did not just edit books. She used her position to champion Black voices. She brought Angela Davis, Gail Jones, and Toni Cade Bambara into the literary mainstream. She created a network of Black intellectual excellence that reshaped American literature. But here's what I want you to notice. Morrison did not wait for permission to build those relationships. She did not wait for someone to tell her it was appropriate to connect these voices. She saw her position not just as a job, but as a platform for collective elevation. She was simultaneously building her own career while creating pathways for others. That is exactly what Chapter 3 of Rise and Thrive is about. Morrison wrote that the function of freedom is to free someone else. In a professional context, that means your network is not just about your individual advancement. Every connection you build, every door you open, every barrier you break creates pathways for other Black women coming behind you. So when you are building your personal board of directors, when you are cultivating sponsor relationships, when you are showing up at industry events, remember that you are operating in a tradition that stretches back through Morrison, through Maya Angelou, through every Black woman. That is not just networking. That is strategic career infrastructure. I want to pause here and bring in some historical context, because when we talk about Black women building strategic networks, this is not a new conversation. Our literary mothers understood this at a level that we need to revisit. Toni Morrison, whose words open Chapter 2 of this book, once said something that I think applies directly to networking. She wrote in her novel Beloved, and I am paraphrasing the spirit of it here, that freeing yourself was one thing, but claiming ownership of that freed self was another. And I think about that in the context of career networks constantly. Toni Morrison herself was a masterclass in strategic network building. Before she became the Nobel Prize-winning novelist we celebrate today, she was an editor at Random House. And in that role, she did not just edit books. She used her position to champion Black voices. She brought Angela Davis, Gail Jones, and Toni Cade Bambara into the literary mainstream. She created a network of Black intellectual excellence that reshaped American literature. But here's what I want you to notice. Morrison did not wait for permission to build those relationships. She did not wait for someone to tell her it was appropriate to connect these voices. She saw her position not just as a job, but as a platform for collective elevation. She was simultaneously building her own career while creating pathways for others. That is exactly what Chapter 3 of Rise and Thrive is about. Morrison wrote that the function of freedom is to free someone else. In a professional context, that means your network is not just about your individual advancement. Every connection you build, every door you open, every barrier you break creates pathways for other Black women coming behind you. So when you are building your personal board of directors, when you are cultivating sponsor relationships, when you are showing up at industry events, remember that you are operating in a tradition that stretches back through Morrison, through Maya Angelou, through every Black woman who understood that strategic connection is an act of resistance against systems that tried to keep us isolated. I want to pause here and bring in some historical context, because when we talk about Black women building strategic networks, this is not a new conversation. Our literary mothers understood this at a level that we need to revisit. Toni Morrison, whose words open Chapter 2 of this book, once said something that I think applies directly to networking. She wrote in her novel Beloved, and I am paraphrasing the spirit of it here, that freeing yourself was one thing, but claiming ownership of that freed self was another. And I think about that in the context of career networks constantly. Toni Morrison herself was a masterclass in strategic network building. Before she became the Nobel Prize-winning novelist we celebrate today, she was an editor at Random House. And in that role, she did not just edit books. She used her position to champion Black voices. She brought Angela Davis, Gail Jones, and Toni Cade Bambara into the literary mainstream. She created a network of Black intellectual excellence that reshaped American literature. But here's what I want you to notice. Morrison did not wait for permission to build those relationships. She did not wait for someone to tell her it was appropriate to connect these voices. She saw her position not just as a job, but as a platform for collective elevation. She was simultaneously building her own career while creating pathways for others. That is exactly what Chapter 3 of Rise and Thrive is about. Morrison wrote that the function of freedom is to free someone else. In a professional context, that means your network is not just about your individual advancement. Every connection you build, every door you open, every barrier you break creates pathways for other Black women coming behind you. So when you are building your personal board of directors, when you are cultivating sponsor relationships, when you are showing up at industry events, remember that you are operating in a tradition that stretches back through Morrison, through Maya Angelou, through every Black woman who understood that strategic connection is an act of resistance against systems that tried to keep us isolated. Now let us get practical because I know you came here for strategy, not just inspiration. How do you actually build these relationships, particularly when the informal channels that create sponsorship tend to exclude Black women by design? Let me walk you through what I call the three-level approach to strategic relationship building. And this comes directly from my experience leading HR across multiple industries. Building with senior leaders. The number one thing to remember when building relationships upward is this: lead with business value. Do not approach senior leaders asking for help with your career. Approach them with insights, solutions, and strategic thinking that demonstrates why you are an asset to their priorities. When you meet with a senior leader, know their challenges, know their goals, come prepared to contribute, not just receive. And always follow up with something concrete. An article relevant to their current challenge, a connection to someone who could help them, a solution to a problem they mentioned. You are building a reputation as someone who adds value, and that is the foundation on which sponsorship is built. Building with peers. Peer relationships are your intelligence network. These are the people who tell you what is really happening on the ground. Build collaborative relationships based on mutual support. Share resources generously. Create informal learning groups. And here is one that I cannot stress enough: advocate for each other's success. When your peer does excellent work, say it publicly. Tag them in the email. Give them credit in the meeting. Because what goes around comes around, and the peer who remembers that you champion their work is the peer who will champion yours. Building with junior colleagues. This one surprises people, but mentoring others while building your own leadership credibility is one of the most powerful networking strategies there is. When you develop a reputation as someone who develops talent, you become known as a leader before you have the title. And those junior colleagues you invested in, they become part of your network for decades. Some of the strongest professional relationships I have seen are between leaders and the people they mentored early in their careers. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie reminds us that we teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. And in network building, I need you to resist that conditioning with everything you have. Take up space. Your perspectives and connections add value at every level. You do not need to shrink your expertise or dim your insights to make other people comfortable. Your strategic thinking is your currency in these relationships. Everything we have talked about so far has been primarily internal, building relationships inside your organization. But Chapter 3 also makes the case for external visibility, and this is where I want to push you to think bigger. Internal networks provide organizational influence, but external visibility creates career optionality. And for Black women specifically, external networks can provide crucial support and alternative pathways when internal barriers arise. Let me be real about this. If your entire network exists within one organization, you are vulnerable. If that organization goes through layoffs or a restructuring or a leadership change that shifts the culture, your entire support system disappears overnight. Here are 4 areas to focus your external network building efforts. Professional associations. Join industry organizations where you can showcase your expertise. But do not just join. Seek leadership roles. Present at conferences. Write articles for industry publications. You want to be known in your industry, not just in your company. Digital presence. Maintain a strategic LinkedIn profile that showcases your expertise. Share thoughtful content that demonstrates your industry knowledge. Engage meaningfully with others' discussions. And consider creating content through blogs, podcasts, or video series. And yes, I practice what I preach. This very show is part of my external visibility strategy, and it has opened doors that no internal network could have created. Community connections. Participate in Black professional organizations. Join women's leadership groups. Engage with alumni networks. These spaces provide not just professional connection, but cultural affirmation that sustains you when corporate environments get challenging. Strategic partnerships. Collaborate on projects with peers from other organizations. Participate in cross-company initiatives. Seek board positions with nonprofits or professional organizations. These relationships expand your influence beyond the boundaries of any single employer. External visibility serves multiple purposes. It builds your professional brand. It creates alternative opportunities, and it positions you as an industry thought leader. This becomes particularly valuable when you are navigating limitations in your current organization. When you are known externally, you always have options. And options, my friends, are power. All right, I promised you actionable frameworks, so let me give you something you can start this week. I am calling this the 7-Day Network Activation Challenge, and it is designed to move you from thinking about strategic networking to actually doing it. Day 1, the audit. Write down your top 10 professional relationships. Next to each name, identify which of the 7 board of directors roles they fill. Circle any roles that have no name next to them. Those are your gaps. Day 2, the sponsor question. For each person on your list, ask yourself this one question. Would this person say my name in a room full of opportunities? If the answer is not a confident yes, that person is not your sponsor. They may be a mentor, a friend, or a colleague, but sponsorship requires active advocacy. Be honest about who is actually doing that work for you. Day 3, the value add. Identify one thing you can do this week for someone in your network. Send them an article relevant to their work. Make an introduction. Congratulate them on a recent accomplishment. Share a resource. Networking is not about extraction. It is about reciprocity. Give before you ask. Day 4, the reach up. Identify one senior leader you admire but have not yet built a relationship with. Send them a message, not asking for mentorship. Instead, share an insight, compliment a decision they made, or offer a perspective on a challenge their team is facing. Start the relationship by demonstrating value. Day 5, the reach out. Identify one professional organization, industry group, or community that aligns with your career goals. If you are already a member, commit to one action this month. Present at a meeting, write a piece for their newsletter, or volunteer for a committee. If you are not a member, research and join. Day 6, the peer connection. Reach out to a peer in your organization or industry and suggest a standing monthly coffee or call. Not a complaint session, a strategic exchange. Share what you are working on. Ask what they are navigating. Look for ways to support each other's goals. Day 7, the board review. Look at your original audit from day 1 with fresh eyes. After a week of intentional action, what has shifted? Where do you still have gaps? Create a 90-day plan to fill at least 2 empty roles on your personal board of directors. This is not a one-time exercise. This is a practice. Just like I talk about in the Shield Resilient Strategy Guide, consistency is what builds sustainable strength. Your network is a living system that requires regular nurturing. Building networks that transform, connecting the dots. Bell Hooks wrote that we cannot build what we cannot imagine. And I think that applies to network building in a profound way. If you cannot imagine a network where you are sponsored, where you are connected at every level, where your external presence creates opportunities that your internal position alone could not, then you will not build one. So I am asking you to imagine it. Imagine having a personal board of directors where every role is filled. Imagine walking into a meeting knowing that someone in that room has already advocated for your ideas. Imagine receiving a call about an opportunity you did not apply for because someone in your external network thought of you. Imagine being so strategically connected that no single organizational change can derail your career trajectory. That is not fantasy. That is what strategic networking looks like when you do it with intention. And as Black women, we have a particular responsibility in this space because every connection we build does double duty. It advances our individual careers and it creates pathways for the women coming behind us. Your network is both the foundation and the scaffold for the career you are building. Approach network development the way an architect approaches a building project, with vision, with strategy, and with attention to structural integrity. Do not leave it to chance. Do not assume that being good at your job is enough. It is not. Not in environments where visibility and advocacy still flow along lines of informal affinity. Here is how this connects to the high-value leadership methodology. One of the 5 pillars is authentic connection, and that is exactly what strategic networking is at its best. It is not transactional. It is not performative. It is the practice of building genuine relationships where both parties are invested in each other's success. When you lead from that place, your network does not just help your career, it transforms the cultures around you. So let me bring this together. Today we went deep into Chapter 3 of Rise and Thrive, Building Your Strategic Network. We talked about the critical difference between mentorship and sponsorship and why that distinction matters disproportionately for Black women. We explored the concept of a personal board of directors and the 7 roles you need filled. We drew inspiration from Toni Morrison's example of using her platform to build networks of Black excellence. We covered how to build relationships strategically across organizational levels. We talked about why external visibility is not optional, it is essential. And I gave you a 7-day network activation challenge to put all of this into practice starting today. Maya Angelou told us that nobody can make it out here alone, and she was right. But the flip side of that is just as powerful. When we build strategic networks with intention, with reciprocity, and with a commitment to collective advancement, we do not just make it. We transform what making it looks like. If today's episode resonated with you, I want you to do 3 things. First, grab your copy of Rise and Thrive, a Black woman's blueprint for leadership excellence. Chapter 3 goes even deeper into every framework we discussed today, and it includes a full network development planning exercise that you can work through at your own pace. The link is in the description. Second, download the free Shield Resilience Strategy Guide. It is the companion toolkit that helps you build the emotional and professional resilience you need while you are building these networks. Because let me be honest, strategic networking takes energy, and the Shield framework helps you protect that energy while you invest it wisely. That link is in the description as well. Third, drop a comment below. Tell me this. When you look at the 7 roles on your personal board of directors, which one is the hardest for you to fill and why? Your answer might become the focus of a future Ask Shay segment. And do not forget, if you want more leadership development beyond what we cover here on Wednesdays, make sure you are tuning in to the Unlock, Empower, Transform podcast every Tuesday and Thursday, where we dive into high-value leadership for all leaders, regardless of background. But Wednesdays? Wednesdays are ours. Also, if you are not already subscribed to the Blackmon Brief, that is my free weekly newsletter where I deliver leadership strategies, career insights, and empowerment directly to your inbox. The link is in the show notes. I am Shay Blackmon. Thank you for spending your Wednesday with me. Now go build something powerful. Rise with purpose, thrive with authenticity, and I will see you next week.